Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I thank the chairman for yielding this afternoon, and want to thank the ranking member of the committee for your support of a very, very important bill for our veterans, the Homeless Veteran Families Act. As a member of the Veteran Affairs Committee, I believe that it's critical, absolutely critical, that veterans and their families receive the housing support they need simply to just get back on their feet. Since 1994, the VA's Homeless Grant and Per Diem program has provided homeless veterans with community-based transitional housing and supportive services. This program funds community agencies that provide such services to homeless veterans. In fiscal year 2017 alone, the VA funded 600 community sites which provided housing to more than 23,000 veterans through the use of over 12,000 transitional housing beds nationwide. Unfortunately, many homeless veterans with children are unable to obtain transitional housing and the support assistance they need under the Homeless Grant Program because housing providers only receive payments from the VA for the veteran, but not for any minor dependents with their families. Because housing a family requires more resources and beds, many housing providers have been unable to house homeless families without additional financial support. This problem has resulted in the lack of access to very needed supportive housing and services for veterans with children because the veteran is forced to choose between getting their own housing assistance and services or caring for their minor dependent child or children. The VA has previously stated that approximately 8% of veterans who entered grant per diem housing programs and who had a full assessment completed within 30 days prior to admission had either full or partial legal custody of their children. This was estimated to be 2,500 children in fiscal year 2017. No veteran should be forced to choose between housing and the much-needed services or caring for their children. However, current law limits the VA's authority to reimburse housing providers for the additional cost associated with sheltering the dependent children of our homeless veterans. My bill, which we are voting on today, would provide for a partial per diem for each minor child who is receiving services through this program. This partial per diem would be an amount equal to 50% of the daily cost of care, but this would ensure that veterans and their children are able to obtain the housing and services needed to help them achieve residential stability, give them the opportunity to increase their skill level and income, and ultimately to obtain greater self-determination and self-worth.
I yield an additional minute.
Gentlewoman is recognized for an additional 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Providing housing to our nation's homeless veterans is an essential first step and so critical to everything in a veteran's life, including getting the health care they've earned, taking advantage of veteran education benefits, getting a job, and having the quality of life they have earned and deserved in what our country has promised. Passage of this legislation will benefit veterans of all eras and their minor children who are struggling and suffering with homelessness. My bill has over 300 co-sponsors, which is indicative of the bipartisan support for addressing this important and time-sensitive issue. I urge my colleagues to again support this bipartisan legislation, and I thank you again, Mr. Chairman, for bringing my bill to the floor, and I yield back the balance of my time.